Hi, welcome everyone to the Friday of SEL Week. We're so pleased you're here and are able to join us. We'll give people just probably about 30 more seconds to join in. So please feel free to use the next couple of minutes to get comfy, pour yourself a cup of coffee, and we will get started shortly. Oh, and if you could, and if you feel comfortable, of course, it'd be wonderful if you could introduce yourself a little bit in the chat. Maybe share what state you're coming from, whether you're coming from a school. That would be wonderful. So we always like to know who's joining us, and I'm sure you would love to know who else is here as well. And here come some more people. Great. So just as these two arrive through the ether, I think we'll be good to go going. Right. Well, welcome everyone. It's to our eighth webinar this week from SEL for New Jersey. We're so thrilled to be able to provide these to not only those in New Jersey, but across the country and across the world. This is something that we've been offering these webinar series for the last couple of years. And just so you are aware, the recordings, the webinars, the materials will be available and posted on our website for everyone to share. And I'd just like to also share with everyone that this SEL for SEL Day and SEL Week this year has been very successful. So here in New Jersey, we have over 20% more schools participating in SEL Day than last year. Woohoo, New Jersey. And also, we have had a wonderful, robust registration for this webinar series. So, again, congratulations, New Jersey. And that's just New Jersey. So, across the US and across the world, many, many schools and organizations have been celebrating and engaging with celebrating all the wonderful work that schools and organizations do every day. So, with that said, we're going to be moving into our presentation today, and it's all about community schools. And with that said, I'm about to change hats a bit, and I am going to talk a little about community schools because I am one of the founders and one of the co-directors of the New Jersey Institute for Community Schools. The and here, actually, I'm going to do something else here as well. Okay, that's fine. Great. Thank you, Greg. So, and I do realize I just failed to introduce myself. I am, and actually that slide's coming up, so I'll do it that way. So there I am. I'm the one of the founding members of SEL4NJ on the leadership team of SEL4US, which was why I'm here hosting the webinar series. But I'm also one of the founding directors of the School Culture and Climate Initiative that's based at the Center for Human and Social Development at St. Elizabeth University, but also, in terms of this hat, one of the founding directors of the newly launched New Jersey Institute for Community Schools. And our mission is to be the center for strengthening and expanding community schools in our state, which is why we're here today. We have our wonderful colleagues who are all founding co-directors of the New Jersey Institute to be talking about why community schools are important, the impact they have, where is New Jersey in this mix, and the role of the newly launched institute. And I'm going to just share a little bit of the tidbits that you'll be hearing today, but community schools are a proven way to impact positively absenteeism, including chronic absenteeism, student disciplinary issues, that's addressed, as well as teacher retention rates. And overall, the community school impact has shown to significantly increase academic performance as well. So this is something that we're very, very excited to help support and expand in New Jersey. And the colleagues that you'll be hearing from in the next 47 minutes or so will expand on all of this. So overall, like so many efforts and so much work we're all doing, our vision is that for every child and every family will have the supports and resources necessary to thrive. And we know they need to have they need a solid foundation in order to succeed academically and in life. And community schools are a wonderful way of ensuring that. So, with that said, I am going to turn over to my wonderful colleague, Dr. Greg Stankiewicz. Over to you, Greg.
Thanks so much, Liz, and good morning to everyone. Good Friday to everybody. It's really good to be here with my colleagues. I'm Dr. Greg Stankiewicz, and I'm honored to be here today. And just to give you a quick sense, um, I'll be talking just very quickly about why community schools is a type of framework that we believe meets the moment right now. And then I'm going to hand it over to my other colleagues, and Dr. Whiting will talk about the evidence around the impact of community schools from across the country. Um, uh, Ju Julie Borst will be talking about what's actually happening here in New Jersey, and will provide sort of just an overview of the community school framework more specifically. And then we're going to hand it over to Dr. Heindel, who'll be talking about the New Jersey Institute for Community Schools. So, why do we believe community schools is a framework that can meet the moment right now? And in many ways, because there's so much overlap between social emotional learning, which I believe is at the heart of the community school framework, a lot of this I think is going to feel very, very sort of impactful for all of us. But for me, one of the things is we're at a moment right now where public education is under assault. And community schools goes back to the vision of John Dewey of a place for all of us that looks at every child, treats the whole child. So Diane Ravitch, who's been so involved for so long in thinking about how to change the educational system, in her latest book, points to community schools as uh, a framework for our moment and for going forward. And she writes, we can restore public education to its role as a key foundation of our democracy, but we can't go back to the schools of a century ago. We must have a more generous, contemporary vision of public schools and what they can be. The movement for community schools points us in a new direction towards schools that truly serve families and their children, with medical clinics, food pantries, adult education, counseling, summer programs, after school programs, and connections to other supports that help students and their families to thrive. A number of states and the previous federal administration have really leaned into community schools as a response to so many things that are going on in the lives of our families. And so this is just a quick summary of the 8 states over the last 5 years that have really leaned into state funding and additional resources to try to expand this community school framework. Most famous of all might be California, that's embarking on a huge effort. And Dr. Whiting will be talking about some tremendous evaluation results from what's going on in California from its early evaluation. But as you can see here, Maryland, New York, and a number of other states have really leaned into that. And we want New Jersey to do the same. Just as an example from California, how specific an effort it is and how detailed it is, it involves a whole bunch of grants for planning as well as for implementation for basically at the end of the 7 year rollout for every Title I school in California, every Title I school to become a community school and to adopt the framework of community schools. And again, for me, what it boils down to is a way of trying to strengthen our schools and strengthen the trust in those schools by our families and by our kids. And so I wanted to just end my section with this quote from Charity Anderson and Professor Charles Payne, who wrote that at times, schools in disenfranchised neighborhoods can function like fortresses in hostile territory, isolated from the communities they serve, just as the children in them are isolated from the broader society. The community schools movement, which in its current form might be dated from the mid 1990s, tries to build that more reciprocal relationship between school and community. And at their best, these schools tell youth that they are somebody, that they come from communities of inherent value, that the communities they come from don't define their horizons. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to my colleague, Dr. Whiting, who'll be talking about the evidence behind the community school framework and what the Institute can do in terms of gathering evidence and evaluation. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Greg. I'm Dr. Ross Whiting. I am the president of Dogwood Consulting. We do evaluation and organizational development. I am also the chair of the SEL4NJ Youth Mental Health Advocacy Collaborative, the president of the Pennsylvania Alliance for Social, Emotional, and Mental Wellbeing, and I teach in the College of Education and Human Development at Temple University. And I am proud to say that I'm also one of the co-directors of the New Jersey Institute for Community Schools. So today I get to share with you some of the data supporting community schools very briefly, and then I'll talk about some of the things the Institute can do to support the development of community schools through research and evaluation in New Jersey. Next slide. Perfect. Thank you. So there's a wide body of research supporting community schools and the efficacy of community schools across the United States. There are two studies in 2013 and 2019 that show different growths in literal dollar value for what you get out of a community school for what you put into a community school. In 2017, there was also a meta-analysis that identified specific evidence-based criteria under the Every Student Succeeds Act, which undergirded a lot of the work moving forward from that point. And since then, there's been a variety of large-scale studies, both in New York City and across California, that show significant impacts on attendance, grades, disciplinary incidents, social, emotional, mental well-being, those types of areas. I do want to also emphasize that across almost all community schools research, there are a couple of things that are very consistent, and some things that you can expect with well-implemented community schools. Well-implemented community schools reduce absenteeism and chronic absenteeism. So not just everyday attendance for everybody, but also for kids who are the most vulnerable and who miss the most school. They also reduce discipline and suspension rates for kids who might be within disciplinary systems. They also improve academic outcomes and test scores for well-implemented community schools. And importantly, they meet the social, emotional, and mental well-being needs of students who are part of those schools. Now, one of the important things to know is those are the consistent findings. Many times what will happen in a community school is it will identify the needs of the community that is embedded within and then design supports and services around what those needs are. There are many more outcomes related to specific efforts, including food insecurity, housing insecurity, employment, healthcare services, these types of things. Where there is a need and where the school focuses on those things, there are also positive outcomes with those areas as well. And we can pop to the next slide and I will go over. Perfect. So what can we do? The New Jersey Institute for Community Schools is an evaluation partner and a research partner who can help ensure effective implementation of community schools across model sites. And we have the capacity to improve processes and demonstrate impacts for initiatives related to community schools across the state. And so some of the things that I've listed here, so we can do vision, mission, and strategic plan development, including what do you want your community school to do? So literal strategic planning and implementation work. We can do needs and asset assessments across the community. And I want to emphasize that those kinds of assessments focus on community voice and inclusion, identifying traditionally marginalized and underrepresented groups within those spaces to ensure that all aspects of the community who community school is serving are represented within those needs assessments. We can also conduct implementation and process evaluations, which describe ongoing processes and provide recommendations for guidance to improve the fidelity of community schools. Importantly, because we know that better implementation of community schools results in better outcomes for students. So fidelity of implementation for community schools is very important. Another area of focus can be rapid cycle quality improvement. rapid cycle quality improvement involves the almost real-time feedback from research and evaluation team members to provide recommendations and feedback along the processes that are happening across community school efforts. And those things can be communication, they can be data collection, they can be identification of needs, it can be a lot of different things. And so what that looks like is literally being embedded with those groups of people so that you can collect information in real time and provide information in real time about how that group can succeed. Very importantly, no effort is sustainable without outcome and impact evaluation. And so that is one of the core things that we will focus on as well and have focused on in our reporting on community schools across the state. We can collect and analyze all kinds of student school data related to attendance, behavior, disciplinary referrals, academics, family engagement, well-being. And like I said, in some other areas, if there are specific areas that are identified by that school system that need to be focused on, we can also design outcomes and impact evaluations to meet those things. As a research and evaluator for over a decade now, I know that that information is not useful unless you have good deliverables to communicate it. And so when I think about deliverables, I think about what is going to happen with this information so that it can be actionable in the situation that it's presented in. And so when I think about deliverables, I'm thinking about tools that are specific to the environment that they are in, that provide and speak to the context of the things that that group cares about and the thing that community cares about. So actionable information, recommendations, things that support and bolster the work, prove that it's efficacious, right? These things are important. And so designing everything from a user-friendly tool to a technical implementation tool to a process description to full technical reports, many dozen-page reports. All of these tools are useful in different contexts. And I think it's important to highlight that the tools that we will produce and have produced so far are relative to the context in which they are used. And so that's just a brief overview of kind of the background of research and evaluation related to community schools and some of the things that we can do. I'm now very excited to pass it to Julie Borst, one of the co-founders of the Institute for Community Schools, to talk more about what it looks like in New Jersey.
Thank you, Ross. Hi, everyone. I'm Julie Borst. I am the Executive Director of Save Our Schools New Jersey Community Organizing for the last 8 years. I'm Board President of the New Jersey Community School Coalition. I'm a member of Ross's team at SEL4NJ, the Youth Mental Health Advocacy Collaborative, and I am also co-founder and co-director here at the New Jersey Institute for Community Schools. So welcome and thank you for coming to hear about what we're up to these days. I'm going to backtrack a little bit and just talk about the core practices of community schools. We used to call them pillars. There used to be 4, and they have been expanding and growing. And I think each of these things working in concert create an environment where we get the kind of outcomes that Ross was just talking about. And those include, probably most importantly, because this is most focused on students and then their families, is integrated systems of support. So finding out what the needs of those students are and then matching services for them and their families. We say powerful student and family engagement. And that is not just what I like to say is not the box of Joe on the first September Thursday where you get welcomed into your next school and we'll see you next year. This is truly sitting down and having conversations, inviting families into schools to talk about what their needs are, how they can support their students, providing services that will help them do that. And that can be everything from health clinics to helping parents, so they can help their kids do their homework. It's just a wide variety of things, and it depends solely on what's going on inside of that school building. And I think it's really important to understand that this framework does not mean that everybody gets the same thing. Every single school, community school looks different, and they should look different because the needs are specific, hyper-specific to those locations. Expanded and enriched learning opportunities, and this I think is truly an important thing. As we've seen in New Jersey, there's been such a narrowing of curriculum as school districts have chased standardized test scores. And so the offerings for students in places where historically the test scores are not particularly good end up focusing just on reading and math, but the kids are missing out on art and music and theater, and field trips and all that sort of stuff. So having these expanded kinds of opportunities for kids are really, really important because it informs those other things. Collaborative leadership, shared power and voice, and this is between the administration in a school, the teachers, the students, the parents, and the immediate community members. And that collaborative approach is probably the hardest practice or formerly pillar in this framework. Learning to work together is not an easy thing. We're very fortunate that we have a partner at Rutgers who is doing this work very specifically in schools, and the outcomes have been terrific just by doing this piece. Also, rigorous community-connected classroom instruction. This is really, really important. So what is relevant to your student population? What gets them engaged and wanting to learn? There's some terrific examples in Philadelphia right now, and the city of Philadelphia actually is a lead partner for several of their community schools. And they have an entire program around rap music and writing poetry. And the kids love it. It's all Philly based, right? It's relevant to those kids. And then a culture of belonging and safety and care. And this is something that's really relevant as we're all recuperating from the pandemic. Places that were up and running community schools recovered better and faster. And it was mostly because the communication was there. People trusted each other. Students and families felt comfortable coming to their local school for a variety of things. This is really, really important and probably ties in best with SEL4NJ week here, is this idea of school culture and climate. And the places where those exist, students tend to thrive better. So what's happening here in New Jersey, and this is really exciting. I was extremely privileged to be named to Governor Sherrill's Kids Mental Health and Online Safety Action Team, their transition team. And I led the community schools subcommittee. So I hope some people will take a look at that because I think it just lays out how we're thinking about this holistically and how we deliver mental health services specifically here in New Jersey, inside schools. The Institute is here, as Ross said, for a variety of things. So, community schools are an evidence-based and proven approach. New Jersey needs to do more of this. We have several examples of different types of models here in New Jersey, as you can see. So nonprofit-led. So Mercer Street Friends has been doing this work in Trenton now for nearly 10 years, and they've just expanded into Hamilton and Ewing. University assisted, Montclair State has had a couple of versions of this. The current version is with Patterson. District-led, Newton, Wildwood, Red Bank, Hamilton. I mean, there's many, many examples. And this is not just places where you're bringing in services for your kids, because virtually every school district in New Jersey is doing this. This is about leadership in these districts, specifically thinking about the community school framework and doing this as best they can. Most of them have not been able to get to what we would call a full service community school because there simply hasn't been the money and the dedicated effort by the state for this. And now we're hoping this will change with this new administration. And then there's some really great union partnered examples in Camden. So I'm going to pass it off to Trish because really we want to get questions from you all and answer them as best we can. And we look forward to working with all of you. So thank you.
Thank you, Julie. And thank you everyone for joining us on this Friday of SEL Week. I am Patricia Heindel. I am at St. Elizabeth University. I'm a professor of psychology and dean here at the university. And I am the founding director of the university's Center for Human and Social Development, which is the home for our newly launched New Jersey Institute for Community Schools. I am privileged to be one of the co-founders and co-directors. I also am the co-director of the Academy for Social and Emotional Learning in Schools with Maurice Elias from Rutgers University, and the School Culture and Climate Initiative, which with Liz Hansen Warner, who you've met already. And I serve as the Vice President and Treasurer of SEL for NJ. And we've been working in New Jersey trying to integrate training in higher education for pre-service educators around the importance of social emotional learning, having a positive climate where everyone feels connected and welcomed, and of course promoting the model of community schools that you've been hearing so much about this morning. So my role is going to be to kind of sum up what's been said, but also share what the Institute looks like. So we recently launched the Institute that, as I said, is housed at the center. We launched in March of 2025 to be a university-assisted center to bring together partner organizations working in this space throughout the state and also far afield to come together in a community of practice. And we have already held multiple statewide convenings to bring partner organizations and people doing this work in schools, some of which Julie has just described. The Institute hopes to leverage the work that's been going on. And I do want to call out the work that Julie and Greg have been doing statewide, promoting and advocating for community schools for years. And we are so happy to be able to create an institute that can help bring folks together doing this work, but also be a place that can leverage the work, identify new areas of collaboration and action to benefit students, staff, and families and communities in New Jersey even more. The Institute has 3 entities listed there in the box on this slide to support the implementation and expansion of community schools. First, a technical assistance center, because we realize that there is no place in New Jersey to provide guidance and training for people who want to engage in community schools implementation using the kind of best practice full implementation model that Julie has talked about. So the Technical Assistance Center will provide guidance and training for schools to launch and expand community schools throughout the state. We also have partners outside of New Jersey who have experience with technical assistance centers, who are modeling the center after, and who we have been collaborating with and engaged with. A research center to house all of the wonderful things that Ross just described, tools that we can provide to schools before, during, and after implementation of the community schools model. So we can be a clearinghouse of data. There is no one place where impact data is being housed in the state. And we have all of the community school implementation happening across the state that Julie's been talking about, but there's no place that's collecting the outcomes data for community schools. So we want to be a clearinghouse for data on the impacts of community schools, to document and share what's working, share stories, share data that will inform both practice, but also policy. And we really hope to be in the space of advocating for policies in New Jersey that recognize, support, and can help us to implement more or expand community schools. And then last, a community of practice to be a supporting site for site coordinators and family engagement coordinators doing the work on the ground in New Jersey. We've already held several community of practice meetings of site coordinators and family engagement coordinators in schools and districts across the state, and they have been very well received. And the engagement that we have garnered in those community of practices is really outstanding and significant. And those who are joining us speak to the fact that there's no other space for them to share stories, share opportunities, assist one another in solving problems, share successes. And that's the space that this provides for the site coordinators on the ground who are doing the work. So we see an extraordinary benefit of first having a New Jersey Institute, a center, a place, a space to do all of these things that we've been talking about. And to have it at a university whose mission really aligns so well with the mission of community schools. We are a university that is all about access and supporting. We are about social justice. We are about leadership for service to others and service to communities. And so the leadership of the university has embraced the New Jersey Institute because of seeing that alignment with our own mission and our own values. So with that said, I'm going to turn it back over to Liz, who can say a little bit more about the community of practice, which, as I said, is really the star right now of the work that we've been doing since we have launched the center. So back over to you, Liz.
Great. Thank you, Trish. Regarding the communities of practice, for many years now, we've been facilitating and bringing educators, organizations, associations together around key issues. And over the years, this effort has just grown and grown and grown because there's something magical that happens when one connects people. And the communities of practice, we didn't know how this was going to go. It was brand new. We launched the first one this autumn, and from the outset, over 34 site coordinators turned up. And at first, they were new to this idea, and within 10 minutes, they were sharing successes, they were sharing challenges, they were celebrating one another, they were exchanging tools and good ideas. And this sort of being able to create a table to share expertise and just connect all the amazing work and the amazing minds has been, as Trish mentioned, one of the things we were able to do very quickly and has shown to have real legs and real value within the community. So this is sort of a micro example of what we hope the Institute throughout the state will do. As Julie mentioned, there have been community efforts, successful community school efforts within New Jersey for many years. However, it has not been widespread. They've been kind of scattered around. And as Julie also shared, there are a lot of schools who are of course they're bringing in resources from the community to schools, but they're not doing it in a way that's as probably as efficient as could be. So what the Institute hopes to do is sort of take this idea of a community of practice, but expand it to create a table, to create a home, to connect the research, the evaluation, support for site coordinators, other partner organizations who are doing very related but somewhat separate work. Greg referred to, or actually I think it was Julie, about the collaborative leadership work that's going on with Rutgers, with many districts throughout New Jersey. It's very important that that's part of the mix. The School Culture and Climate Initiative, amongst many others. So by creating a home for the Institute, we have this very specific example of a community of practice for the site coordinators, and they tend to be the lone person in their schools, and they do amazing work. But being able to connect with others, it's incredibly valuable. So if we can do this for schools throughout New Jersey, those schools that are formally adopting a full service community school model, for those schools that want to learn about this, for those schools that need support in formalizing so that they're implementing this work with fidelity, which is so important. We can do this through the Institute in a way that's really supportive for everyone, and the families and the kids will feel the direct impact. And those evaluation services that Ross mentioned, it's a lot more than evaluation services. It's support and resources for any school who are along the path of trying to figure out how they can get the best supports for those kids in a way that's most efficient, that has the greatest impact. So we are very excited about the launch of this institute. We're very excited about the future for community schools within New Jersey. As Julie mentioned, Governor Sherrill is very behind this idea, which is wonderful. And we're very excited to see where this goes. And there is so much we could talk about community schools and what other states are doing and partners. But I think with that said, I'll invite my colleagues is there anything else you'd like to add to this conversation? And we can also open it up for questions as well. But I'm sure, given there's all the data and all the experience, that there's things you would like to add as well.
I would just would like everybody to notice that this is highly, highly collaborative work. And that's from at the school level all the way on up to the work that we're doing as well. And I think those collaborations provide not only an opportunity for us to learn, but for us to share, what we've learned as well.
And I would just add too that what the site coordinators are doing is quite technical. The process really begins with a needs assessment, a very careful look at the needs of the students, the school community, and then a very careful assessment of the community resources surrounding the school, with the intention of obviously creating relationships with the resources to bring those into the school in a way that, as Liz mentioned, is very strategic, is very planned, and not one-off solutions to a problem that pops up. So it's a very, very technical, very comprehensive, very data-driven at its start when thinking about launching a community school. So these site coordinators, we think, can really benefit from us being able to bring in expertise to support their work. They're really critical to the implementation, and so is the leadership of the school, for sure. Just wanted to make sure to make that point, that this is tough work.
And it's work that's important for the students, but it's also important to help teachers themselves who've got so much on their plate. And that community school coordinator, the role is designed to take some of the burden off of teachers and to make it more effective. And then finally, it's rooted in the community. So a community school builds on the idea that the school itself is a hub for the entire community, and brings in the resources that Trish was talking about into a place that can best access our students and their families. And now more than ever, so many of our students need the support, need to feel secure, need the help of the resources from the community. This is a way of listening to what the community itself needs and channeling it into a place where we can touch the lives of as many students and their families as possible.
And removing barriers that are preventing those families from thriving and students from learning, frankly. So do we have any questions from the group? You could use the chat or just unmute. We're small and mighty. And maybe Julie, you want to give, or Greg, give a couple of examples of what community schools are doing to demonstrate what a community school looks like.
I'm Mary Bay here. I'm a
hi.
caretaker, community advocate, and a graduate from the ambassadors classes from Arts Ed Newark. I am in a struggle with my grandchildren's school. I know you say the holistic approach. What I hear, I love all of it. But how do you get the school to not see you as an upstart or someone who comes there who's, I'm looking over your shoulder. I'm not looking over your shoulder. I'm trying to show you what's lacking in the deliverance to the community. How do I push back gently on the opposition that they're presenting? If anyone can help with that.
And just to be clear, the opposition is coming from the school administrator.
Yeah, I offered a community-based group to come in and work with the school to bring the arts in. It would be for free. We would do it on our own. They said, no, we don't want to work with the community. I was like, what? So I'm not a
Yeah.
loss.
Yeah. Changing school culture is not easy. Yeah. So I will share though that there are some schools in Newark where they have partnered with one of our national partners communities in schools to deliver integrated student supports as the basis for their community schools. They were focused highly on chronic absenteeism. The readout from them, and they're now in year 3 of that pilot, has been just incredibly good. And and I will share here. So Trish was talking about site coordinators and how important that position is. The second most important position to the success of a community school inside of a school building is the school principal. And if you don't have that buy-in, that collaborative spirit in the school principal, this will not work. You must have that. It has to be there. Number one is a leadership role and a signal to everybody else that the focus of the building is highly collaborative. But not every principal is like that. We hope to help change some of that as we go along. My only advice to you here, having started in this work 27 years ago, my daughter, I will share, was a special ed student. And trying to get my school districts to do the right things for her was very difficult. But I think as a matter of organizing, sometimes it helps to go find another voice that is not directly involved in the work that you're currently doing to come in and support and say, hey, there's this really cool thing. They can help provide, extra art education. And art education helps inform reading and math and all of those other things, right? You can't get an engineer just by doing math. They also have to have that creative vision to create something new, right? So art is incredibly important. Music is incredibly important. And sometimes for some students, that's the reason why they show up to school, right? Those are the things that are easy for them or they just love. And that's how you get kids connected to schools. So my advice to you very generally would be to go find somebody else in the community who's doing different work than you to come into the school and say, hey, let me support what Mary's doing, excuse me, and to try to change the hearts and minds that way. And also find parents.
Yeah.
Collective parents' voice is very powerful.
And Arts Ed New Jersey has done terrific work.
Amazing work.
Amazing work aligning arts education with social emotional skills development, as well as students' academic success. So they have a wonderful website, and you could reach out to them for some advice as well. But I love Julie's advice to find some friends. A single voice is not as powerful as a combination of a couple of parents who or other community folks saying the same thing.
Right. And I would frankly also try to connect with the superintendent, Roger Leone, because he is interested in partnerships. So maybe he can help with that as well.
Thank you much.
You're very welcome.
Julie, I'm going to just one thing. In addition to the superintendent, school board is a good way to go. I'm a board member in my district too. And so I love to hear from community members. I will also say that sometimes for me as a board member, it takes multiple times seeing and experiencing somebody from the community within that environment to understand that how that resource can be received and integrated into the school district. And so my other advice is don't give up. I know it can be tough sledding with school districts because they have a limited bandwidth and they have their own priorities and there's a lot of different things they're juggling. And so I hear you wanting to engage. And I think in most cases, educators and board members really want community engagement, but are having a hard time figuring out how to do it. So I appreciate your persistence and just wanted to offer some other ways into the district as well.
Thank you.
And thank you for the question and for sharing. I think there's some really rich conversation and advice came from that. So thank you very much. And I think we've seen you on some other webinars this week as well. So thank you so much for joining us through all of SEL week. So really appreciate your attendance and engagement.
Well, I have a nonverbal grandson, so
Oh, right.
I'm here to learn to try to help him also.
Yeah. Are you, and I'm sure you are involved with SPAN? SPAN this has quite a few resources as well for parents and some great trainings as well.
It's a
No,
parent
I wasn't
network.
familiar with it, but I'll check into it now.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful parent network of
Wonderful
sorts.
Parent Network, and also there's a training that SPAN is offering by a woman who's just wonderful. She's the president of a board of ed. She's an educator. She has her own kids, helping train parents on how to approach boards of ed and how to train parents to just be what you're trying to be, and just kind of that extra kind of extras that community members might need. So I'd really reach out to SPAN. They're doing wonderful work, and especially this reach out to parents to help really empower parents to have a voice in the district.
Mm,
So,
yeah. And
mm,
Julie, thank you, Julie. Julie just put the link to the SPAN website in the chat for you, Mary. And I'm wondering if there's any arts educators in the school who might be a resource for you. So we have a couple of minutes left. We can entertain more comments or questions. I know, Liz, you have a few things to say to
yeah,
close out.
I think what we'll do is just to reiterate is that thank you all for attending, and the recording and the PowerPoint will be available on the SEL4NJ website. And we really encourage you to use the SEL4NJ website as a resource for all the other webinars that we've hosted, as well as last year's. So there's a wealth of information. We'll also be sending out to all the attendees of this week contact information for all of the different partners and partner organizations. So to ensure that we're fostering connection and collaboration, as Julie mentioned, is that everything that we do, whether it's through all the individual hats we wear as well as our collective hats, we're all about partnership, all about collaboration, all about creating tables to exchange information and support one another. So that will be being sent out. And also, for those of you who still have some webinar will in you, this afternoon we have two more webinars, one all about movement and SEL and how moving is so important. I think that will be great. And then this afternoon, just to close us out, it will be our lovely school psychologists who will be sharing again. They did a wonderful presentation yesterday. This one is all about prevention and interventions with a whole child and whole school approach to SEL and school and psychology and schools in general. So these are wonderful as well. We hope you'll be able to join us. And I think with that said, we might give you all the gift of 2 minutes of time. So any closing words from anyone?
Oh,
Or,
thank you, everybody, for being here,
right.
and look for more about
Yeah.
the New Jersey Institute for Community Schools and more about community schools in general. Join the
Right.
movement.
Yep. And thank you, Haley. We're so glad you found the information shared today helpful. So stay tuned, everybody. Lots more to come. So okay, I'm going to stop our recording. Have a wonderful rest of SEL week.
Thanks, everyone.
Everyone.
Thank you.